My SIL believes that she should be the sole beneficiary of my husband because they are each other's lifelong person. She was shocked by the reality. My husband and I just bought our first house. My husband has a pretty high-paying job, I work and make a decent salary, but our budget to buy our house was influenced more by his earnings. We had his family over last week. Generally, I loved his parents. They've always been good to me, and they're fun. I have not spent as much time with his sister outside of holiday gatherings, but we do have her son, husband's nephew, stay with us for a week over the summer the last few years, so I know him well too and love him. So everyone mentioned above comes over and we show them around the house. At one point, I'm showing SEL a kitchenette in the basement, and I say something like, "It's great that our house has this space now, so if you want to visit us, you'll have basically a separate apartment." And she goes, "Our? Is it also your house?" I'm immediately confused, but also, I guess she could have assumed my husband bought it on his own. I said, "Yeah, we bought it together." And she goes, "Do you think you deserve to own half of this house?" I don't know, I just think that's crazy. I was shocked and I mostly panicked, said, "Well, I do, yeah," and fled the basement. I immediately told my husband, away from his family, and he in turn immediately went to talk to his sister. I went to hang out with his parents and didn't say anything to them, but then we heard shouting outside. My husband and his sister were yelling at each other. I know people are different with their siblings, but I've never really heard him yell before. I could hear him tell her that we don't have a prenup, and she called him an idiot. I had to tell his parents what was going on. They went and intervened and left pretty quickly with his sister and nephew, who didn't hear any of this through the magic of video games, I think. His mom said sorry to me on the way out. I did touch base with my husband and he was livid, like way more angry than I'd expect. He told me that before we got married, his sister was the beneficiary of his life insurance, and he thought she was angry over essentially being removed from all his assets, but we've been married 3 years. She apparently had texted him about being added onto the house paperwork a few weeks ago during the buying process, and he just ignored her. His parents have reached out to me and have been very sweet, apologetic, but they really want to fix things and have asked if I'll talk to SEL. I'm trying to step away from it and just say it's now between my husband and his sister. Is that fair? Of course, I'm a bit hurt by her saying that, but at the end of the day, if she has problems with how he's handling his assets, that's between the two of them, right? I feel really bad because his family has always been so sweet, and I really love his nephew, so I also want things to be fixed. Update. After talking a bunch with both my husband and his parents, we figured out a few things. He didn't tell her that he's replaced her as the beneficiary on everything because he assumed she would know that. So she had texted him during the home purchase, "Hey, do you need my signature on anything for this new house?" He had messaged her back, "No." She then essentially asked if the house was an asset set up like his life insurance, and he told her that everything is set up fine and that I'm on all of paperwork, and she's responded, "Okay." So I do think part of this is her truly not knowing how marriage is supposed to work, and she seems to have expected there wouldn't be any change. I found out she also mentioned this with their parents, her main concern being that if something happened to my husband, I wouldn't help her son like we've been doing as a couple. Mill and Phil say they told her not to worry, and that I love our nephew, but that was what was going on behind the scenes before all this. Mill and Phil also admitted that they may have unintentionally encouraged this, because they've always really encouraged their kids to support each other, but due to the various dynamics at play, what that ends up being is pressure on my husband and a sort of "your brother will always be there for you" message to his sister. This was particularly strong in the last few years before I met and married him because his parents thought he was planning to be a lifelong bachelor. They're not wrong in this. He definitely had that mindset at a time. And so then he and his sister really were, in their eyes, each other's lifelong person. So the last few years, there had been this level of fallout I wasn't even aware of due to that. I also learned SEL is in a not great financial situation, and due to past issues, the whole family essentially refuses to give her cash, but will do things like buy groceries or pay a phone bill. So she's been struggling and I think feeling a little desperate and jealous. Oh, of course, none of this is an excuse, and I'm not speaking to her until I get an apology. My husband has also said he needs at least a week or two before he speaks to her, but he does plan to. His parents are totally in agreement and understand. They will tell her that we talked about the dynamics at play, and that she needs to acknowledge what is going on here and take accountability for her part in it. So hopefully that will kickstart things in the right direction.